Hi, very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, thanks for coming over for this launch over here to our venue. My name is Arjun Bhatia. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at matrimony.com, and I'm also joined by my colleague Srinath. Srinath heads product development for us at matrimony.com. So today we are here for a very important product launch, which we believe will be a real game changer in the matchmaking and the marriage industry when it comes to digital services. So before I move into the product itself, Jodii, I'm sure all of you would have got the press release and you would have some idea about the product by now. I'll just like to quickly run you through one or two slides on the background of our organization, and then I'll hand it over to Srinath to give you some more details on how did we come about thinking about a product like Jodii. And I'm sure you would have those questions in your mind, so we'll try to address those questions as we go along on the presentation. And of course, after that, if you have anything specific, both me and Srinath are here to answer those questions. So if you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so a very quick look on our journey till now. So we are the first internet consumer company to go public. We went public in 2017. Of course, now it's a buzzword. Every organization is going public who have anything to do with digital services, but we were the first one to go public way back in 2017. We are the dominant player when it comes to matchmaking and marriage services in the internet space. We have more than 60% market share, and we have been in this business for over 22 years now. So that's the kind of experience we hold in this matchmaking industry. And I'm sure you would have heard about Telugu matrimony. So we have our flagship brand called Bharat Matrimony, and it has its regional services across the country. For example, in the north, as I just mentioned, Bharat Matrimony is one of the largest players when it comes to matchmaking services. And similarly, in the Andhra APTS region, Telugu Matrimony is by far the largest and the most successful matrimony services out here for Telugus. And around 6 to 7 years back, we also ventured into the wedding businesses with our service called Wedding Bazaar and Mandap.com. This is a 50 billion market which is completely unorganized, and it was up to a player like matrimony.com, which intimately understands the matchmaking needs of the country, to step into this business and see how can we make it a little bit more organized for the new age consumers who are more used to before taking any decision, have some kind of a search, some kind of a review from consumers, customers on whatever product that they want to buy. So weddingbazaar.com and mandap.com are an attempt to do that. So incidentally, mandap.com is a venue discovery platform, and it is the largest venue discovery platform in the country. We have almost 20,000 venues listed on this platform. So anyone with any kind of budget, city, location, or type of venue that they are looking for can very easily search on mandap.com, and basis their set of criteria, they can look at venues, they can look at photographs, the floor plans of those venues, the kind of seating capacity that venue has, is it an outdoor or an indoor, and various other parameters. And most importantly, if other people have used that service or that venue, what is the kind of reviews or ratings those particular venues has. So an excellent service for people who want to do some amount of self-exploration and discovery before going out and checking out the venues physically. So that mandap.com helps do that. And similarly, weddingbazaar.com has over I would say 40 to 50 different kinds of services available. So if you are looking for a photographer or a caterer or a travel agency for booking your honeymoon package, all those kinds of services and the vendors by region are available on this platform. So you can select, shortlist, and then talk to them. So it's a platform which is basically bringing the suppliers and the the suppliers and the consumers onto a single platform, and helping them discover each other for the products and services. We are a 3,000 plus employee organization, headquartered out of Chennai, but we have around almost 20 offices across the country. We have more than 110 retail outlets. Also, you would have seen Telugu matrimony outlets in the city of Hyderabad also. And fiscal year 2021, we had a revenue of 377 crores. So that's in a nutshell the background on matrimony.com. Now moving on to Jodii, and before we actually jump into Jodii, just bear with me for a slide. I just want to give you some context. Of course, you know, a lot of you already know about these things, but I just wanted to set up a context and answer one very simple question that a lot of people within this audience might also have, that while we are seeing the growth of digital services in various reasons and various fields, but is matchmaking keeping pace with that speed of digital adoption that is there in the country or not? So with that, I just wanted to give you a context. So as you would know, you know, in India, the smartphone penetration has boomed over the last 8-10 years. In fact, there is a couple of statistics here. 2015 till now, we have in India has added more than 450 million smartphones in the country, and in terms of internet penetration, 1 in every 2 Indians now, with a population of 1.3 billion, is a person who has a very easy access to internet now. Our internet penetration roughly, this is 2020 number by the way, stands at almost 750 million, which is half the size of the country. So you know all these things, right? But in the last 3-4 years, few important things have happened that have, you know, kind of changed or further hastened the process of digital revolution or penetration in the country. Before last 5-6 years, while digital was there, smartphones had penetrated, but it was still more of a, you know, metro or a tier 1 or at max a tier 2 phenomenon. But what happened in the last 4-5 years? So there were some key things that kind of happened. The first one was there was this entry of Chinese mobile players in the country in the last 6-7 years. Before that, we had very limited options. We had either Apple, Samsung, or a handful of Indian players. And what the Chinese players did was that they bought in 4G at a very, very fast pace within the organization. And secondly, they brought down the smartphone prices at a very, very fast pace. So suddenly now you had smartphones which were earlier nothing less than 15 to 18,000. You were getting similar or better processing power or quality of smartphones at prices which were as low as 6 to 8,000 rupees. So that was change number one, which happened in the last 6 to 7 years. The second change that happened was the entry of Jio Telecom. What Jio Telecom did was, of course, it has been reported very widely in the media, but just to give a sentence on it, Jio completely changed the pricing model and the dynamics of the industry. From a voice-based charging method where all the telecom players were fighting, suddenly they said voice is free, we will just charge for data, and the charges for data itself will be like 10x lower than what the dominant market players were doing at that time. In fact, I remember the quarter that Jio was launched, I think it was 2016, Airtel for the first time in 15 years of its history had a loss in that quarter. So that was the impact Jio bought, and what Jio then typically actually did was it bought the power of smartphone 4G into the hands of the real Bharat. Till then it was actually India where this whole revolution was happening, but these two things actually started bringing the power of digital technology, services and convenience into the hands of Bharat, and that's when the real penetration got unlocked for these services. And the third important in the last change or phenomenon that this happened in 3-4 years, with which I think no one has got left untouched, was COVID. So COVID impacted us in all kinds of possible ways. It's that black swan event which probably hopefully happens once in our kids' lifetime. But what it basically did was, one was before this for the Bharat, smartphones and internet penetration was primarily, a means for some entertainment or some basic news consumption was what was happening. But when the lockdown got enforced, there were a lot of these services which they actually needed for not only convenience but for running their livelihoods also, or for other factors also. Example, education moved online, be it formal or be it informal. It hit everyone. Now suddenly the phenomenon was that a lot of people, for even basics of things, were looking up onto the YouTube for finding information. Example, few weeks back, I forgot the code of my suitcase which I had recently bought. So I didn't know what to do. I kept trying multiple times. My wife said go to a shop and get it changed and all that. So I just did a simple search on YouTube that how to unlock a luggage code, and within like 30 seconds I found some 100 videos. And the first video that I saw, within 5 minutes I was able to reset my code. And there are hundreds and thousands of such examples, and in all languages which are available now on YouTube. In fact, Google often cites, you would have heard these statistics, that the searches that are happening now, thanks to all this smartphone penetration, geo and everything, are at least 3x higher in local languages, in vernacular languages, than what they are in English. So that's a very important trend that started, and it got further accelerated as COVID hit. So I spoke about education. The second most thing was the e-commerce companies. So suddenly for e-commerce companies, grocery companies, not only were the metros or the prime tier 1 markets remained important or prime customers, but tier 1 and lower markets also started seeing demand. As COVID took up, shops were closed, people were not able to go for the basics of things also. They started looking towards these kinds of sites. And you would recall that, at that time, e-commerce during COVID period time was considered into essential services, and e-commerce was still supplying full on across the country during that time. Even in zones which were marked red zones and people were not allowed, e-commerce deliveries of certain section of products were being allowed to deliver at that time. So that was, how the e-commerce apps started penetrating. And then of course, along with e-commerce, the payments apps, be it your Paytm, Google, PhonePe, they also saw a massive jump in their transactions. All these new users that were coming in were not coming in primarily just from the metro cities or tier 1 cities. The transactions or the work or the services that people from tier 2, tier 3 or lower cities were providing at that time, they were getting paid with Paytm and these other e-commerce apps and sites. So net what happened with these three broad market factors or changes that came in the last 4-5 years is that the real power of smartphones and the use cases of smartphones or digital or internet completely exploded, and it was no more left like a elitist or a digital native, those 150 million English speaking Indian population who are typically your degree holders and all, who were using this service only, but there were people who were using this service in the Bharat, as I'm calling it, the tier 2, tier 3 markets, the lower half of 400 million smartphone users who primarily want to interact in their own mother tongue, in their own languages. And all these apps that I spoke to you about more or less started offering services in those regional languages. Today if you open Paytm for the first time, it asks you for a choice of language that you want to use in. In entertainment, there are now apps like Chingari, Moj, Takatak. First time you install and want to register, it will ask you what is your preferred choice of language, and then it will start giving you content, feeding you content within those languages. Entertainment saw another industry boom that came up thanks to this content getting vernacular. The rise of local influencers. Now every region, even at a city level if you go, you would find Instagrammers or people who are on these apps like Moj, Takatak, Chingari, who are having thousands and thousands or hundreds and thousands of followers, because they are producing content in their language, and people are loving that content, and showering them praise and following them for this content. So the digital revolution, I would say, has taken now the next phase or the next leap, and we have actually been able to unlock the next phase of growth when it comes to digital services in all aspects and all industries. As I mentioned, be it medical, be it healthcare, be it education, be it entertainment, be it news consumption, name it, and content is now getting vernacular, searches are getting vernacular, and people are favoring, the real Bharat is favoring apps or services which are in their language, are helping them solve their problem in that. So that's the context on digital. But if you see in the last 2-3 years, has matchmaking kept pace, or online matchmaking kept pace with this kind of maddening growth that has happened in the overall digital ecosystem? I would say yes and no. Yes, because as India went into lockdown, all the players in the industry, be it us or our competition, saw a very massive amount of interest coming from people in registering, building up their profiles, because they had that extra time. But this was more of a phenomenon which was related to the metros or the tier 1 or at max the tier 2 cities. So we were already working on some concepts and ideas, and we were thinking, but this whole period, when we analyzed it, we realized that yes, there is something missing, and probably there are few things that we need to bring more onto speed and bring it to the market, because there is some gaps in the market when it comes to online matchmaking which we need to address. So if you move to the next slide. Yeah, so with that context, product Jodii is what we wanted to speak to you about, and I want to give you a sense of why a product like this is there. Obviously, as I was mentioning earlier, you would have in your mind the question that there are already apps. Why do we need another app for matchmaking? Why is another matchmaking app required? So for that, what we did was, we just don't want to give you a simple context on what this app is, what its features are. We want you to meet two individuals through this presentation. These are real individuals, just that their names and pictures have been changed, but their story is real, and they basically represent the new wave of our country. These are the people who are the real Bharat that we keep hearing about, and what their story is, and for them why this product is important.